Well, I'm Kenny Lowry, and today we're just going to talk about the pumps that we use, kind of a general overview, not getting too specific, but most of the pumps that we're going to use are going to be these Italian-made pumps. They're going to look something like this right here. They're going to be in this blue box, and they're going to have a they'll come in different sizes, but this is one of the larger ones, but it's going to come kind of like this. Now, some of them are going to have a dial either on the side or at the top to dial back the water to be able to control that water flow. This one here does not, so this is one of the larger ones. So when you get one of these, we're going to have a ball valve on there that you're going to control the flow with. So you'll have your hose will come out, it'll go into a ball valve, a short section of hose, and then from the ball valve it goes out to your fountain feature. So but most of the pumps that we're going to use, probably 80% of them, we're going to have a little dial on the pump itself. That's where you control the flow, and I'll kind of show you that. So when you get your pump, and it's okay to lay these pumps over on the side. A lot of times people will call us and ask us if if you got it setting upright like that and it's in a basin, by the time you put your hose connector on it, it's actually toward the top of the basin. So it's okay to lay that pump over. That's perfectly okay to do that. Now this particular pump here, the flow control dial is right here. So you can kind of give you some, usually you can turn it back at about 30% off of max. That's about what you can turn it back. So that is your flow control dial there. Sometimes it's right here on like inside cover. Now this pump here has a sponge filter on the inside cover of it. We're usually going to throw these away before you get it. We found that you didn't need these, not in the disappearing fountain system. If you're doing it in a koi pond or something like that, I guess it's a good idea to have it. But in the disappearing fountain system, since you don't have as much debris, we found that we didn't need these. When I first started, I had these sponge filters on all these fountains we have around here. It's like 50 of them running, and these would just get clogged up with dust and pollen, and it would drive you nuts trying to clean the dust and pollen out of that. So not necessary on the disappearing fountain system, since the debris and things aren't making their way down into the fountain, and all it's going to do is just drive you crazy clean dust and pollen. It's not a very big filter, so it doesn't take a whole lot to clog that up. And like I said, usually we're going to throw that away before you even get it. But if you do get it and you can throw it away yourself when you're installing your fountain. So this is I've removed the front cover on that. Of course, I'll put that back on. Now, a lot of times, if you've been running your pump a while, or if you get some debris in there, like during the installation, you've gotten some debris in there and it'll get sucked into the pump, or if your fountain's been out running a while, maybe through the years, and you've got some debris work its way down into your basin. Typically what we'll do is we'll just remove the access panel, and there'll be debris stuck like right here on this cover, and we'll just kind of get it and just throw it off. That's basically it. We find that we have to do that maybe once a year, kind of what we do. Of course, it depends on the debris that you're getting. You always want to mount your basin in the ground slightly above grade. That way you're not getting stuff washing into your basin. So then it's just going to be stuff that falls out of the trees or make its way into the basin. So that basin should always be slightly above your surrounding grade. And that's addressed over on the installation video. Now, sometimes people will have fountain for many years, and they'll have like their pump won't work, so they'll think the pump is burned out. We have a retail location here, so we get people bring their pumps in that maybe had their fountain for years, and they'll think something's wrong with their pump. I get a 5-gallon bucket, and I'll go take their pump and put it in a 5-gallon bucket, and at least half the time there's nothing wrong with the pump. People don't check to make sure the GFI switch that's tripped, so they're not checking to see if there's power to their outlet, or they'll have some debris will get inside the cover on their pump, and it'll get around the impeller. Now, I have removed the cover off of this just to make it a little bit quicker, but it's got some screws mounted right there after I've removed that outer cover. So this is the inner cover. So this is right there. You can see the impeller is right in there. If you can see debris in there, you can probably remove that without removing this cover. If there's no debris in there, then there's probably no reason to move this cover. But if you want to remove this cover, it's got some screws on this one. There was 4 screws there. I removed those, and then I got into the impeller there. Once you get into the impeller, that should turn freely. I'm turning it there. It's magnetic, so you should be able to turn that. If you can't turn it, it means the pump's froze up. If you need to go further, like if if this somehow gets broken, although doubtful, but if your impeller gets broken and needs to be replaced, then you can get into the impeller. This particular pump here, and they all might be different, but this particular one here has a little spot that I can stick a screwdriver in. So I'm going to stick that in there and kind of pop it. And you need to do this carefully, but you kind of pop it. I just stuck it right in there, and now I've got it to where it's wedged, and you might hear that little pop. So I pop that loose. There's the impeller. So if you need to replace the impeller, you can do that. Now when I go to put this back in, that's not flush, so I need to pop it back in. So now I popped it back in. So now that impeller is back into it, seated back into where it needs to be. It's turning freely, and you can put your cover back on it, and just your interior cover, then your outside cover as well. So this pump here has the dial right there. So that's just a quick overview. These are Italian-made pumps. They're the best pumps we could find, and it's what we use. These do have 3-year warranties on them, but before you call us for a warranty claim, make sure that your pump has power. Make sure that the impeller doesn't have something sucked in there and is stopping it from turning. Quick little things like that. When you dial down your pump, if you got a pump that's is pumping 1,000 gallons of water, you can certainly dial that down. If you're using a dial, you're never going to dial down too far. It's only going to allow you to dial it down so far. When you have the ball valve on it, like on this bigger pump, it's possible to turn it down too far. So if you've got a pump that's designed to use a pump through 1,000 gallons an hour, and you've dialed it down past like what a ball valve would do, and you've turned it down to 300 gallons an hour, you're probably going to reduce the life of that pump because you've dialed it down too far. With the dial that's on here, it's dialing it down maybe 30%, something like that's what you're dialing down, and that's certainly okay to do that. But don't dial it down too far. So if you get a more powerful pump, you can probably get by with half, but don't go below that half. Hopefully this helped answer some questions about some of the pumps. We use most of these pumps. There are some other pumps that might not look like these right here, but this is the majority of what we're using, these Italian-made pumps. If you have any questions about our products, you can reach us at our toll-free number on the website. Also, our email contact info over there as well.